Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, the first anniversary show, in fact. Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Well, you shouldn't have. Well, that's right. This syndicated radio show launched on July 15th, 2017. So this marks the 52nd show, one per week. So a huge thank you to the listeners out there. I really appreciate your support. And thank you to our sponsors like Asus, an awesome company I'll tell you more about shortly. And of course, thank you to Radio America for syndicating the radio show to all the fine stations across the country. Tech It Out is also a podcast, of course, which is how you may be listening to it right now. If you dig the show, do tell your friends, your family, and your colleagues all about it. Hey, we have a stellar show for you today. In a few minutes from now, we're going to catch up with Geoff Keighley, one of the biggest names in video game journalism, as well as TV production and live events. In fact, he hosts and produces the annual Game Awards, which will take place this year on December the 6th. If you're a music lover, on the other hand, then this hour you'll want to hear my interview with the Eric Alper, a veteran publicist who will join us to talk about how technology has changed music for the better and for the worse. Eric's current and past clients on the PR side range from Ringo Starr and Slash to Snoop Dogg and Ray Charles to the Wiggles and Sesame Street, believe it or not. Now that's an eclectic list. Speaking of music, we'll also catch up today with IKEA about a new wireless speaker they've got called the ENEBY. And no, you don't need an Allen key to put it together first. All this and more on today's Tech It Out. When it comes to video game journalists, hosts, and producers, it doesn't get any bigger than Geoff Keighley. After running a popular online magazine for gaming, the LA-based entrepreneur began hosting national TV shows about video games, then serving as host and executive producer of the Game Trailers TV series, which aired for 11 seasons. Then he started the Game Awards show to celebrate the best in video games. Geoff also started the Game Critics Awards at the annual E3 Expo held every June in LA. He was the co-founder for that, of which I'm privileged to be a judge, by the way, among many others. And so Geoff joins us now on the line where we caught up with him in San Francisco. Welcome to the show, Geoff.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here. Good to talk to a fellow Canadian.
There you go. Now, before we talk about Game Critics Awards, tell us about your role at E3. You hosted a multi-day live-streamed event, quite ambitious but successful.
Yeah, the E3 Coliseum. I've been going to every E3 since the beginning in 1995, and a few years ago, E3 decided for the first time to invite fans to the show. And while there are a lot of great places you can go play games on the show floor, sometimes they're long lines, especially with the most popular games. So we created this idea of E3 Coliseum, which is a big 2,000-person venue where a lot of the biggest names in the gaming world can come and talk to game fans. So we had 3 days of talks and conversations. We had big names from the video game industry like Hideo Kojima and Todd Howard, and then also a lot of special guests from the entertainment world who are big fans of games, like the co-creators of Westworld, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. Jack Black, the actor, was there, Elijah Wood, Joe Russo, the director of Avengers. It was a really fun 3 days to celebrate our love of video games, and I really have so much fun producing it.
And it was packed. I remember popping in there the second day when I was able to prime myself off the show floor, covering it as a journalist. But you also live streamed it to those who weren't in LA. You had some streams, I guess, was it Twitch or YouTube Live? And tell us about the numbers that you were able to get from gamers around the world.
Yep, yeah, there were over 3 million streams of the show across, it was like 5 or 6 platforms. It was Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Mixer, a bunch of other places. Wow. That's what's fun now is that E3 can really be brought to people around the world, and I do that also with the YouTube Live at E3 show that we do. It's so exciting to be able to share the magic of E3 with a global audience, and we see, as you see, millions of people around the world who really care about games and want to take part in E3 virtually.
Yeah, just to step back for a moment, for those listening who aren't sure what E3 is, it's an electronic entertainment expo, and it takes place every June in LA, and it's a glimpse into the future of the interactive entertainment industry. So these are games that may not come out till 2020 2019, 2020, and so on, where we get the industry to play around with it. We can, write articles like previews and get gamers around the world excited about what's to come and what to save their hard-earned cash for. And on that note, you co-founded Game Critics Awards more than 15 years ago, I want to say. I know I've been involved with the organization. There's, 40 or 50 of us. Tell us about what the Game Critics Awards judges group is all about and the purpose of our work at E3.
Yeah, you're right. I think you were one of the founding judges almost 2 decades ago for the Game Critics Awards. And we created that group to really define what the best games were at E3. And that's obviously subjective, but, like anything, there are hundreds of games at E3. And for people that aren't able to go to the show, they naturally want to know, hey, which games are the best? Which ones are you most excited about? So the Game Critics Awards is a group now of 50 judges or voting publications around the world. So we have North American publications, and we have folks from the Middle East and China and Australia, Brazil, voting on their favorite games that they got to play at E3. And every year after the show, everyone goes back home and they fill out this ballot selecting kind of their 5 favorite games in a bunch of these different categories. And then we announce a winner. And it's really a great way, I think, to look at, the whole landscape of E3 and say, hey, these are the titles that really stood out at the show.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it's great that publications like, say, IGN or GameSpot or what have you have their own Best of E3 awards, and that's cool. But I love that with the Game Critics Awards, it is really sort of the mainstream and the core gaming publications that come together. And there is a representative, as you said, Geoff, from each of these major publications to go and collectively decide what we think, again, subjectively, on what deserves a Best of Show nod, which is a big deal. We're chatting with Geoff Keighley, one of the biggest names in producing live events for the video game industry, one of the biggest on-camera personalities. He's a journalist as well. We're chatting about the Best of E3 awards and the Game Critics Awards. So with that in mind, tell us what took Best of Show for the 2018 E3 Expo.
It was a really interesting year for Best of Show. There were a lot of games at E3 that people talked about, but they weren't able to play. And one of the restrictions we place on the awards is that we have to let the judges be able to play a game for at least 5 minutes. It can't just be a video. It can't just be a presentation. So there were a lot of great games that weren't playable, that were ineligible. But the game that ultimately won Best of Show was a bit surprising to some folks because it was a remake of a classic game. It was Capcom remaking Resident Evil 2. It's it's not just a remaster where they're making the graphics a little bit better. They've completely gone in from the ground up and kind of recreated this game. But it's such a classic game. It looks really fantastic, a ton of fun to play. And that won the Best of Show this year at E3, and it'll be out next end of January of 2019.
All right, so not too long to wait for, just about 6 months. So it's the remix, if you will, of Resident Evil 2 by Capcom. What platforms will it be playable on?
It's coming out to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Like a lot of games now. It'll be on all those platforms. So no Nintendo Switch, but pretty much everything else you'll be able to play it on.
Speaking of the Switch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate won, I think, Best of that platform. That was one of the most buzzed about games at the show. So that's a portable version of the popular cartoon brawler, right?
Yeah, Smash Bros. Ultimate coming out December 7th this year. On Switch, highly anticipated franchise that Nintendo is bringing to the Switch format. Looked great at E3. It won Best Fighting Game and was nominated for Best of Show. And that was, another great game that was fully playable at E3. Anyone that went to the Nintendo booth got to check it out. And the great thing about that game is that every character that's been in a Smash Brothers game in the entire history of Smash is going to be packed into this release. So it's a pretty epic Smash Brothers for fans.
It was super fun. I think there's close to 70 playable characters there, which is great. Hey, we'll continue our chat with Geoff Keighley in a few minutes from now when we talk about the Game Awards that are coming up and what you could expect this December. It's bigger and better than previous years. We caught up with Geoff, by the way, in San Francisco, where he was conducting some meetings based on the Game Awards. So he generously lent us some time to catch up about E3, his favorite picks from the show, the Game Critics Awards. And as I mentioned, he's going to be hosting and producing the Game Awards, the annual awards Awards show every December from LA. So good stuff there. Don't forget, on this program, we're also going to catch up with Eric Alper. He is a seasoned music publicist. We're going to talk about his work. We'll talk about the cross-section of music and technology, how technology has enhanced the music experience with things like streaming audio and Bluetooth speakers and headphones, as well as how it has damaged the industry, especially if you're an artist or a label, how things have shifted over the years because of technology and piracy specifically. But an interesting chat, no doubt. So that'll be coming up on today's Tech It Out as well. And speaking of music, our last guest today will be IKEA, of all companies. They have a new Bluetooth speaker called the ENEBY. It's a pair of speakers, in fact, a small and a large one. So we'll talk about why they got into this space, what separates this wireless speaker from all the other ones out there. And no, you don't have to put it together to listen to first. I do want to thank our sponsor before I continue. This show is brought to you by ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. And you got to check out their Republic of Gamers, or ROG line of computers and accessories like monitors, keyboards, mice, headsets, and even a gaming phone from ROG. Awesome stuff. And speaking of gaming, when we return, we'll continue our chat with Geoff Keighley about his picks from the recent E3 Video Game Expo and the upcoming Game Awards. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Tech It Out on the Radio America Network.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Geoff Keighley, a seasoned video game journalist, TV host, and producer, who's also involved in live events like the upcoming Game Awards, which will take place on December the 6th. And he recently produced and hosted a 3-day live event from the E3 Video Game Expo in LA. Any other standouts for you? I mean, I know it wasn't playable and thus not eligible to be nominated for a Game Critics Awards nod, but The Last of Us from Sony looked amazing. Cyberpunk 2077. Anything you could tell our listeners that really caught your eye? I know you were super busy, but if you had a chance to see these games, tell us.
No, I went to, Cyberpunk 2077 was one of the most incredible demos I've ever seen at E3. Unfortunately, we couldn't play it, so it wasn't eligible.
Right.
But that comes from CD Projekt Red, the creators of The Witcher 3. It's an incredible developer over in Warsaw, Poland. You would not expect one of the best games E3 to come from Warsaw, but it's a really talented team over there, and it's a futuristic role-playing game. It's done in the first-person perspective. Looks just incredible. It's kind of Blade Runner meets GTA meets Tron. It's just an incredibly looking game. So that was by far one of the best. And then other games that got nominated, got a lot of buzz. Marvel's Spider-Man for PlayStation 4. That's coming out in just 2 months in September. Comes from Insomniac Games that created the Ratchet and Clank franchise, and a game on Xbox called Sunset Overdrive. And it's by far the best Spider-Man game that I've played ever, really, and reminds me a lot of what Rocksteady had done with the Batman Arkham series with Warner Brothers, kind of reinvented Batman as a really high-quality action-adventure game. So Spider-Man is going to be a big release that's coming out, I think it's September 7th this year. So that's going to be one that was up for Best of Show and really a ton of fun to play.
And that'll be a PlayStation 4 exclusive. So, yep. Geoff, you're already knee-deep in planning for your upcoming award show in December. Tell us about the next Game Awards.
Yes, it's our 5th anniversary of the Game Awards, and this is a passion project of mine to create an award show that celebrates the best games of the year and previews what's coming in the future. This will, as I mentioned, be our 5th show, and the great thing about the Game Awards is that we stream it online for free for everyone. So you don't have to have a cable subscription, you don't have to subscribe to any website. It's available on pretty much every platform out there. You can watch it on all the gaming systems. You can watch it on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook. And it's going to be our biggest show yet. It's December 6th from the Microsoft Theater and we will, of course, celebrate the best games of the year. It's been an amazing year with games like God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out in October, the phenomenon of Fortnite. So we'll kind of talk about all the big moments in gaming, but also announce some new games like E3 that are coming in the future, and they'll be revealed for the first time at the show.
Are you hosting the show, Geoff, or producing it, or
yep.
both?
Yeah, I'll host and produce it. Again, it's I kind of wear many hats, but as I said, it's a passion project of mine, and we always have special guests that join us. Last year, The Rock revealed a new clip of Jumanji. We had Guillermo del Toro there talking about Shape of Water. So we have lots of celebrity guests. Mm-hmm. We have a big orchestra that plays all the music from the best video game scores of the year. So we really try and do it on a very grand scale, because my belief is that video games are the most powerful form of entertainment out there. They're bigger than the movie industry, so we need to have an award show that feels just as big.
Amen. Where can we learn more about the Game Awards and the Game Critics Awards?
Yeah, they both have websites. You can go to GameCriticsAwards.com or TheGameAwards.com. And if you want more updates on the Game Awards as we get ready for the big show in December, you can follow the Game Awards on Twitter and Instagram for real-time updates.
And that's the word, The Game Awards, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, all right. Geoff, thanks so much for your time. Congrats and good luck on the planning of the December show.
Thanks, Mark. Talk to you soon.
You got it. What's particularly interesting and impressive about Geoff's success is that he's not even 40 years old yet. I mean, he's been doing this for so long. I think he was 14 with his first live gig. If I read that correctly, it was either a TV gig or a live hosting event or both. But I've known him since the mid-90s, and his career keeps climbing and climbing and taking him in new direction. So very happy to see that, because he's a super nice guy, as you can tell, very knowledgeable and well-connected. He knows everybody in the interactive entertainment space. Great stuff. You are listening to Tech It Out. This is a weekly radio show and podcast. If you are near a terrestrial radio, then you'll know that depending on the station you're listening to, it's every Saturday or Sunday for a full hour, and online and on demand via your favorite podcast platform. It's playable on iTunes, Blog Talk, Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and many others. I'm sorry if I forgot a couple of big ones there, but you get the idea. In a couple of minutes from now, we are going to catch up with Eric Alper. I know that it's going to be a great interview because he's a hell of a guy. He is a seasoned music publicist who has worked with all the big names in the industry in PR or publicity, both in the US and in Canada, and he is a complete music nut. The guy has like more than 1 million followers on Twitter. He all day is tweeting about music-related facts and his opinion and reviews and, this day in history and all this great stuff. So you should follow at that Eric Alper is his handle, at that Eric with a C, Alper. We're going to talk about music and technology. Has technology made the music industry better or worse? Well, it really does depend on which side you're on, but no doubt it'll be an engaging discussion after this short break. And then at the end of the show, we're going to chat with IKEA about a new Bluetooth speaker that they've got. I thought that was kind of interesting, so we're going to hear all about it. It is not their first foray into smart home devices, but it is the first music-centric one. If you have any feedback on Tech It Out, you have a question for me, a comment, a beef, recommendations for upcoming guests or topics, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Mark_Saltzman. That's Mark with the C _SALTZMAN. You can go to my website as well, where you can also shoot me an email, and I'm at marksaltzman.com. That's MarkSaltzman.com. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. This show is brought to you by ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's ASUS.com/US/radio. If there's one thing I try to hammer home on this show, is that technology has changed virtually every industry, and music is no exception. But has it been for the better or for the worse? Well, that might depend on whether you're a music creator or music consumer. Joining us on the line to talk about this cross-section of music and technology is Eric Alper, founder of Eric Alper PR, after serving as Director of Media Relations and Label Relations for E1 Music Canada for 18 years. Eric is also on many U.S. and Canadian TV and radio stations, and his social media interaction has been acknowledged by Billboard Magazine, Paste Magazine, and others. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
Of course. So tell us about your work, but please remember we don't have all day here. I know you've handled...
The short end of it is that I'm a musicaholic. I'm somebody who eats, lives, and breathes music 24 hours a day on the promotional side, but I also love to promote music. Not so much always on the artist that I'm promoting, but just the real great ideas, especially on the tech side as well, on how tech is changing everything, including the music industry.
And I know you cover this on your satellite radio show as well, but on the PR side, I just want our listeners to know that you've handled acts from The Wiggles and Sesame Street all the way to Ringo Starr, Snoop Dogg, and Ray Charles. I mean, that's quite an eclectic but impressive lineup there.
You never want to mess and mix the Wiggles with what Snoop Dogg is supposed to be doing, because that would be very, very, very embarrassing.
Yes, well, it's odd enough that he has a show with Martha Stewart, but let's not go there, right? Okay, so as I mentioned in my introduction, you've also embraced social media in a big way. You've, you're connecting with like-minded music fans in cyberspace. How many followers do you have, and why do you enjoy talking directly to people instead of through traditional publications?
I love social media because for the same reason why my wife loves social media and me being on it, is that I don't bombard her with all the silly trivia stuff that I have going on in my head. Right now, I've got just over 1 million followers on Twitter, 29,000 on Facebook, and about the same on Instagram. Wow. But since day one, I've always done my tweets and my posts to the general public in the exact same way. It's all the really fun stuff that I find, little fun facts and news items and tidbits. So really, how I'm posting when I had 100 followers is exactly how I'm doing it now, with just a little bit more of a wider audience.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Yeah,
well,
but you know, like I've kind of gone against the grain a little bit, because when we all first got on social media, the name of the game was supposed to be engagement, but quite frankly, I don't talk to that many people on there. I kind of enjoy reading a lot of other people's responses. I'm never goated in terms of getting into a troll war or fights or arguments or negativity. I've got no time for that, but I love just having the outlet in order to post what I love.
Mm-hmm. I do want to encourage our listeners to follow you at that Eric Alper. So it's the @ that Eric Alper is your handle. All right, now I wanted to have you on the show to talk about technology and music. It is an interesting intersection, to say the least, and it can be viewed, as I mentioned in my introduction, as a positive or negative fusion. So let's talk about the good side of tech and music. How has technology supersized the music listening experience for fans?
If you're a music fan, there's no better time right now than to listen to music. The ability that you can pay one small price for any music streaming service and have access to 55 million songs at your fingertips is a brilliant thing, and it puts the power back in the fans' hands to listen or watch whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, however many times they wanted. So as a music fan, I love living in this time. If I'm an artist, though, my competition is no longer a artist from, that town or that city that they're from. Their competition are now the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and every other artist out there, because we're all competing with the same ears and eyes as everybody else that's out there.
And also, if you're an artist, for example, Taylor Swift has been vocal about not loving these streaming services like Spotify, because they only get 0.002 cents per track or whatever it is. What's your take on that? It's great for the music fan, but what if you're an artist?
If you're an artist, it's not necessarily the greatest time in the world. And now I'm telling artists these days, your job is to go as long as you can without going broke and not being ignored, because the competition is that much fierce. Mm-hmm. The triangle is still the same, though. Even back then, when all these big artists were getting signed to record label, they weren't making that much money to begin with, because those contracts were all recoupable. So, they made a lot of their money on the road, and it's just the same now. Now you can't really rely on your recorded music to help make the money. It's what happens after you release that album or EP or single. That's where the money has to come in for you, using tour dates and merchandise and VIP treatments to your shows and other places like that.
Okay, so that's how bands can best monetize their success is to tour so they can make money from ticket sales, merchandising, clothing, apparel, other ways to do it if they're smart enough to own those rights. As you mentioned, selling VIP, sort of meet and greets. There's product placement in music videos, licensing money you can get. So record sales is way down the list now on how an artist earns money doing what they do.
Yeah, you've got to kind of use social media and the amount of followers that you have in order to parlay that into something else, because nothing sticks anymore as well. We're living in a tech world where the audience is completely and constantly bombarded by new shiny releases, and you're a lucky artist if you happen to have a small segment of the world's population care about your release even weeks afterwards. Take a look at now, where nobody's really talking about the Beyonce Jay-Z collaboration or the Kanye West record or Drake after a month or so. That doesn't mean that they're not selling or streaming really, really well. It's just that the good majority of the audience has kind of moved on, and that's what all of these artists are up against. How to make something stick for longer than that week that you release your new product.
We'll return with Eric Alper shortly. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Saltzman, host of Tech It Out. We're capturing more content than ever before, whether it's on smartphones, drones, action cameras, or tablets. And so we need an easy and reliable way to capture, preserve, access, and share it all. With a complete portfolio of mobile storage solutions to back up all your precious memories, SanDisk offers removable storage cards, high-performance USB flash drives, and portable SSDs for all your photos, high-res media, music, and personal files. Personally, whenever I use memory cards and USB drives to protect my digital content, which is often, I trust my important files with SanDisk. Head over to sandisk.com to learn about how their solutions help you keep up with the demands of today's mobile-centric lifestyle. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Eric Alper about how technology has enhanced the music listening experience. What do you think about smart speakers like the ones from Sonos or Google?
I love it. I love the ability that I can just talk into a speaker and explain what kind of song I want or artist I want or the mood or the playlist that I'm looking for. It takes it completely off of my hands and doing searches, because it's already smarter than I am, and it's certainly a lot quicker. So I dig them. I've got a couple of them at home already, and I don't know how I could do without them.
All right, so the speakers are great, and you can use your voice to call up a playlist or a genre or an album or a track. But what about the quality of the music? It's been said that we've gone backwards in quality. We've traded quality for convenience. Having, like an MP3 doesn't sound as good as a music CD that predated it, but you can fit 1,000 songs in your pocket. And now, as you said, stream 55 million songs from your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole generation of fans out there that are between the ages of, say, 8 and 16 who have no idea what it's like to own a home stereo system with great speakers and high-res audio. They have no interest in it. They just want access to their music because they're growing up listening to music on little tiny speakers or their earbuds, which some of them are actually really good. But we've seen when quality and the price match what the desire is, it could explode. That's where you saw the Beats headphone system be quite expensive, but it was well worth it. I don't know how many people are still buying those headphones, but I think a good majority of the people aren't really interested in hearing the sounds that are bubbling underneath. I think that they already get the feeling that they want, what they want, and they're kind of happy with that.
It's also a fashion statement, right? The brand and the look of it. You're wearing these things, so it's not even just how well they sound, but how good they look.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a report a couple of days ago that came out that said that the iPhone is now the hottest ranking status symbol among the wealthy in order to prove that you actually have disposable income. Before, it used to be Beats headphones when you saw them on athletes and superstars and musicians. Now, not so much. Now it kind of tapered off from there. But I think sound quality will always be important to those who want to spend that extra dollars on it. For everybody else, that's okay.
How has technology changed how we create music? I mean, I think GarageBand is free or close to it. So has technology also changed the game for artists themselves?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many artists that have emailed me through social media that said that they just recorded a track on Monday and they're ready to load it up to Spotify or iTunes, and it's Wednesday. And I'm thinking, wow, those days of 6-month mastering are long gone. But I think it puts the power back in those artists' hands to create something that when their muse hits, or if they feel inspired to go for it, that they can record in their home using fairly inexpensive technology and programs and load it up directly, bypassing those traditional gatekeepers like record labels and distributors and sub-distributors. Now, with the hit of a button, they can hit over 400 paid and free streaming and downloading sites with no problem whatsoever. The problem is, though, that not many of them are good because they just don't have that ability to kind of practice in front of live people, in front of shows, and doing all of these things that give you your 10,000 hours worth of practice. But that's okay, because, you know, if you're great, I just have to put my faith in the fact that if you are a great artist, you're going to get heard somehow. It's just only a matter of time.
And you may not be a great live musician or live band, but you could be a killer studio band that creates some really catchy tracks. It's not like a one-size-fits-all scenario, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in the day when you and we were growing up, no matter what kind of music you played, you had to go out there and play live and open up for as many people as possible. Even if you were a pop artist, you might not have been playing in the clubs, but you were certainly playing in the malls, like a Debbie Gibson or Britney Spears or New Kids on the Block.
Tiffany.
Now, and Tiffany, right. Now you can completely bypass all of that, get a video up on YouTube, and start to go viral that way. The idea, though, is what happens next in terms of parlaying that success into something where the industry starts to take notice. And if you don't have that live experience, they're going to have to teach it to you in order to get you to start playing in front of people and large crowds. But that part of the industry will never go away, despite the sheer amount of clubs that's closing.
Right.
The live aspect is certainly something that the artists are going to have to eventually go and do.
And hopefully they'll be able to afford you, Eric, to promote them as well. Everybody needs good public relations.
I come to you, Mark.
Yeah, right. On that note, what's your website? Where can our listeners learn more about your work?
They can check out thatericalper.com, or like you said, follow me online on Twitter at thatericalper.
And again, Eric is with a C. Thanks so much, Eric. I really appreciate your time and your insight.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Continued success, buddy. Fun fact, Eric Alper's daughter, Hannah, who is all but 15, is an activist, blogger, author, and motivational speaker, and she addresses issues like the environment, anti-bullying, and social justice. Really an amazing person. She's spoken at We Day. She has given a TEDx talk. And her book is called Momentous, Small Acts, Big Change, which is in better bookstores now. And surprise, surprise, but Eric, her dad, is also her publicist. Of course. Not to mention, he's such a hell of a role model to begin with. Anyhow, we are going to continue our chat about music when we return in a couple of moments with IKEA. We're going to hear about the ENEBY speakers, a small one and a large one, what separates them from other Bluetooth speakers on the market. Without giving too much away, I know price is one of the features that our next guest will talk to us about with the IKEA ENEBY speakers. You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio American Network. Thank you for your support. This is the 1-year anniversary show, both a podcast as well as a terrestrial radio show. Thank you for your patronage. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
When you hear the word IKEA, you probably think ready-to-assemble furniture, right? With funny Swedish names. Or maybe you think about meatballs and hot dogs, for all I know. But would you believe the company is now getting into smart home products? Personally, I think it's a great idea. But to learn more about this initiative, including the new ENEBY line of speakers, we've got on the line IKEA spokesperson Maya Boricevic. Welcome to the show, Maya.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So when and why did IKEA start getting into smart home devices?
We started getting into smart home back in 2015. We launched our wireless charging solutions for the home, and essentially they were charging pads for your smartphone using the Qi technology. And our hope really was to cut back the need for cords. And then last year was our next phase where we introduced smart lighting. It was a simple, easy plug-and-play solution, required no hard wiring, so that you could change the atmosphere of your home through lighting with one remote. And we had also introduced what we call the Trad-free app, which meant you could dim the lights, group them, or set up timers on your smartphone. And essentially, the ENEBY speakers now is our next phase, where we're trying to introduce living with sound into the home, and really is the next phase of our smart home journey.
And that's right. I forgot that IKEA, they were one of the first, if I'm not mistaken, to create furniture that had the integrated wireless charging pads. So you just place down your smartphone while you're watching TV, and without needing a cable, it started to juice up your device. I did forget about that because previously I thought, IKEA has that app that uses augmented reality, and that was their first foray into technology, where you hold up your smartphone or your tablet, and you can superimpose what furniture might look like in the room that you're actually in. But thank you for reminding me, Maya, about the smart home furniture, followed by lighting and now audio. And it is called ENEBY. I want to tell our listeners, ENEBY. What makes these speakers more unique?
I think what makes this unique is many people dream of built-in sound systems, for example, but few can afford it. And our goal is to save space, get rid of cords, make clutter invisible, and bring sound and music into the home in a beautiful way, but also in an affordable way. I think what's really impressive is that the price point of these speakers delivers such a quality sound, but also gives this really sleek, minimalist look that you can add and integrate into your home. So it's an easy way to add it into your existing space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is obviously one of the hallmarks of IKEA furniture, as well as that minimalist look. It's a simple yet elegant sort of look to it, and the ENEBY speakers are no exception. So these are, just to clarify, these are wireless or Bluetooth speakers where you would pair it with a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop in order to get the music from, right?
That's correct. So any kind of Bluetooth-enabled device, whether it is your computer or it's your smartphone, these will be compatible with those.
It's a dumb question, perhaps, but do you need to put it together like many IKEA products? Do you get like an Allen key in the box? I'm half joking. I think I know what the answer is, but
No. ENEBY, what's really exciting is it does not require assembly. You take it out of the package, you plug it in, and they're ready to go. And I think that's really, one of our values at IKEA is simplicity. And everything that we do as we integrate technology into our products is how can we make it easy for the consumer when they bring it home? And for sure, I know that IKEA is known for its assembly, but there are no Allen keys required for the speaker, no.
All right. And it does have a little handle, right?
The smaller one does come with a handle, and actually also you could add a battery pack that's sold separately, and so there is a portability feature. You could take it along with you to a party or a picnic.
We are chatting with Maya Borochevic. She is an IKEA spokesperson. We're learning about IKEA's new smart home devices and the ENEBY speaker line. All right, so Maya, before we wrap up, let's talk a bit about the sound quality of these speakers, since I haven't had a chance to hear it yet myself. Is it meant to fill up the room? Is it mono, stereo speakers?
The speaker projects a clear, powerful sound, and while it can be connected to any Bluetooth device, it has the ability to sync up to 8 devices and as well can connect to an auxiliary cable. It is meant to fill the room. It's going to give you that powerful sound, even though it's coming out of this small unit. Okay, so good sound, a minimalist look, and something you hinted at earlier, which is a more affordable price point. So let's end off on that. How much does the ENEBY speakers cost? So the small speaker is $49 and the larger one is $89. So really a super affordable price, something that was really important to us when we were developing this speaker, and we really wanted to create something that was going to be a solution and help create a better everyday life for people. Are they available in black and white? That's correct, black and white. And they also have a really cool mesh cover that can be taken off or kept on. So it really kind of either creates this industrial minimalist look, or if you keep the mesh on, it's very a Scandinavian iconic IKEA design. And for the battery pack for the smaller ENEBY speaker, how much does that cost? So the ENEBY battery pack is sold separately and it's $20. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Maya. Enjoy your summer. Thank you. You too.
Well, that just about wraps up today's Tech It Out, the 1-year anniversary special of the show. Thank you again to the listeners, to my sponsor, ASUS, and to Radio America. This show is brought to you by ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. ASUS.com/US/radio has more info. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. We'll speak to you next time on Tech It Out. Ciao for now.